Greetings, Internet. Welcome to Aaron Plays, and I hope you're doing fantastically well. This will be turn 3 of my playthrough of Air and Armour Thermopylae scenario, where I'm playing it solo, playing both sides as best as I can, and we're not playing with the hidden option, and this is not even using the air assets. So it's purely the basic scenario that's advised to play through the rulebook and the scenario playbook to get you into the system. So I'm playing both sides. The first two turns, the Warsaw Pact had the initiative. On this turn, I have no idea until I actually roll that dice. So if we can get down to the map, let's have a look at what's going on. Just a quick reminder of the situation. We have the NATO forces trying to hold a line along here. Actually, let's just bring up an annotation, shall we? Bring the NATO forces here and along this line here to stop the Warsaw Pact from actually getting off the board along here. Currently, this regiment, I don't know what happened there. Anyway, where's my pen gone? There it is. This regiment here has been shattered. It tried a hasty attack and it ran into some M1 Abrams, which didn't do too much for its health, and they can no longer take any part in any offensive action. They can still march, they can still count as victory points that exit the map, but they cannot engage the enemy. So that leaves effectively 3 regiments available for action. That one there, and there's some armor coming up here that can engage. It still gives the Warsaw Pact empirical superiority. However, that, as I saw in the previous turns, can be nullified quite quickly by judicious use of the NATO forces to reinforce the line. Okay, let's go through the sequence of play for this turn 3. We have the sequence cards. Reinforcement phase, there are no more reinforcements. The Warsaw Pact had some armor, which they brought in turn 2. And now we have what the Warsaw Pact planning phase. And this is before we know who is going first, because within the maneuver phase, we roll a dice to see who has the first activation cycle. So the Warsaw Pact have got a plan before they know if they're going first or second. I like it. I think that is a really neat little thing to show the, I won't say confusion, but the discipline that the Soviets or the Warsaw Pact had to be under to maintain an offensive. They did not have that flexibility that NATO have, and that's beautifully brought in with this planning phase before they even know that they're going to take the initiative or not. What that actually means for the units on the ground is, okay, we know for the Warsaw Pact they need this regiment over here. Let me get the annotation up again because it does help. This we know for a fact this one here is going to have to be under march to get to the front, and probably this one here, and probably a march as well. This one here is going to have to pull back. It can't stay engaged, so it's going to have to pull out. So that's going to probably be a march as well. But what to do with this one? We've just seen a hasty attack just go absolutely tits up. So probably that's not the option. And where to engage as well. We know that the NATO's main strength is located, obviously, in this area here. But they have got a unit here. Maybe that's, if I can scroll down the map, so it looks like I've got to come out of annotation, and that keeps all the markers on. But there is an Abrams here that could cover both of those units there. So, yeah. So with that in mind, let's bring up the planning card that we've got for the Warsaw Pact. You can see that each regiment has its mark. These are from last turn. So we know this regiment here, which is the 24th, cannot be under a hasty attack. That could only be under a march. I like it that it's color coded on here again to reflect the background colors. So if we're looking at this regiment here, which is the 22nd on here, yeah, it's there. Now we know we want to put them under march. Okay. The armor, it looks like that needs to be under march as well. That's it. We don't know who's going to have the initiative. Would NATO, NATO could spring a counterattack. If NATO owns the initiative, they could actually, deal these a savage blow, finish them off, because this armor here want to, even if we put it under reserve, isn't going to be able to reinforce here because you only get 3 movement points if you place in reserve. So, however, NATO doesn't necessarily want to destroy Soviet units. They just want to shatter them so that they can't take place in any offensive operations. So NATO might not go toe to toe there because they might take losses as well, especially when the Soviet artillery can open up. So swings around about. I don't know what I'm going to do until that initiative die roll is rolled. So that still leaves us with this regiment here. Is it ready? All right. I know because I'm playing both sides that there's only 1 step of Abrams there, of Bradley's, but there are 2 steps of Abrams. Now, again, if you were playing this using the hidden deployment, even in solo mode, you wouldn't know what steps are there. And also, obviously, if you're playing against a live opponent, you wouldn't know what steps were there. It's hidden. I know, but I don't think they're really set up. I mean, we just saw what happened in the hasty attack there. One Bradley with some Abrahams rushing in to help it. If this was ready to attack there, then probably. So I am going to put them on a hasty attack. Doesn't mean it has to go in. So there we go. They're going to try maybe to take that on. So that's the Soviet planning phase done. So 3 regiments under march orders, 1 under hasty attack. And that then completes the Warsaw Pact planning phase. We're now into the maneuver phase. So it says the Warsaw Pact rolls the dice. If it's odd, Warsaw Pact have the initiative. Let's have a look. It's even, so NATO has the initiative. So we now go to the activation cycle here, which is the next step for now NATO. Okay, so following the activation cycle, it says activate 1 division if it was Warsaw Pact or brigade. Well, we've only got 1 NATO brigade, so we're activating the brigade. Okay, we don't have to do redeployment because we're not in hidden mode only, so we go straight to reconnaissance. This allows us to determine what assets we can see on the board. Let's zoom in a little bit. Okay, so these 2 units can be observed because we're adjacent to them. One thing we want to try and silence is this artillery and possibly the rockets over here. So we're going to send reconnaissance assets to investigate those. Now, these could be representing local civilians, helicopters, reconnaissance units, whatever, determining what they can and cannot see. amount of reconnaissance points that NATO actually has is on the HQ. It's that number in the white circle on the HQ. So that's 1. And they've got 1 offboard asset. Now, the offboard asset can reconnaissance anywhere on the map with the restriction, still needs a spotter. And the HQ one, well, needs to be within range of the HQ, which is within 10. I just talked out of my buttocks there. The spotter has to be within range of the unit here, and the HQ must be in range of the spotter, not the target. So if we use this as the closest unit to determine there, okay, as long as that unit is in command range of the HQ, it can use its reconnaissance point. Each hex can only be reconned once, so we are going to attempt this from that unit as a spotter, and the range from there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I've got a reconnaissance table which tells me, and we look at the terrain that the unit's in, which is heavy woods. Okay, a range of 7. I need a 7 or higher to be able to recon that hex. Okay. Well, 0. Now, is that high or low in this system? That's a problem. I'm playing into the woods where 0 is low, 0 is high. So, yeah. Okay, that's a bit washed out on the camera there. What else if I change the light? Is that make it a little bit better? Can you read that better? I think so. Okay, so they've reconned that hex. All right, so I'm going to need to get a recon marker or a required marker, isn't it? There we go. Boom. Right, so that is the HQ's reconnaissance point, which I can keep track of on here. And there we go, reconnaissance point done. And then I've got one off map recon point, which is over here. So we're going to try and recon that there using that to spot. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 hexes away, again in heavy woods. Okay, 4 hexes again needs a 7. Roll 9. NATO rolling pretty well. Okay, that's an acquired. And that's the 2 recon points that NATO has very successfully acquired some targets, which then brings us up to the next sequence on the play, the strike segment. Do they actually want to fire their gun assets? Well, this is, anything to weaken the artillery needs to be shot at. So we then bring up a strike against that target. The artillery again's got to be in command range of the HQ, which it is, and we then determine if we're eligible to strike that target. Okay, so we've got to determine if those units are in range. So this unit here has only got 11 hex range. So if we click on there to the target, that's out of range, which is unfortunate. So we could bring that into fire at the infantry that we've acquired. Ideally, we want to fire at the artillery, but we can't use our artillery to fire. So we can bring the MERV unit, this unit here. It can fire, and it will fire at the artillery. So it's a range. That's got a range of 20, so that's well within range. I'm sure of it. I'm sure I saw 12 there. So yeah, 13 hex range. So that can fire. There's only one step of it though. So it's got, you multiply the fire strength of 8 by 1. So fire attack of 8. Then we check to see if there's any modifiers on this actual shot. Going to the airstrike, that's not the airstrike, the artillery strike table, or the terrain effects. That increases the defense value of the X. There's no restriction, so it's a straight attack of 8 on that particular hex. And then we roll the dice. High is good. rolls a 5. I think that's just, let's say, stays as is. Looking at the combat results table. The 5, yeah, there's no modifier to that. So there's 8 hits in that. Got around down by 2. So actually only 4 hits in that hex. Yes, 4 hits. Yeah, you've got to divide everything by 2 at the end. So yeah, so that's 4. I should make sure there's no other modifiers. Yeah, I'm just going to go through that. So determine the basic fire strength of each firing unit by multiplying its attack strength by the number of steps it contains. So 8 by 1 is 8. Modify each unit's fire strength for all terrain and other effects. Retaining faction. There was no modifiers. Add the modified fire strength for all units participating. There was just the 1. And then you divide the total fire strength by 2 to determine the effective fire strength. This is the rounding by 2 that affects everything. Then you roll the die and find the hit modifier. The hit modifier was 0. And then you add the hit modifier to the effective fire strength, which again is 0 to leave the effective. Total number of hits is 4. So going now onto that artillery unit, it's got a fire defense of 1, but it is in a heavy woods hex, which improves its defense. Oh, only by 1, so it's 2. Oh, that hurt. Because 4, 2 into 4 goes twice. That's 2 hits on that artillery unit. That was a very effective shot. Very effective. Also, even in a woods, heavy woods, just shows how vulnerable once they're spotted and acquired. Yeah. So that was just the rocket unit. That's now it's not even flipped. It's fired. Where's the place fire marker? There we go. Wow. Okay. Right, this unit will target this one. Okay, so it's in range. I double check just in case. But yeah, it's in range. There's only 2 steps, so it's 4 multiplied by 2 is 8. There's no other modifiers, so other than the rounding, so it's down to 4. 4, and I mean, these NATO are rolling bloody good, aren't they? Okay. 4 with a 10 adds +3. That's 7 hits. Okay, on this unit now, it's got a bit better defense. It's in a heavy woods, and it's a motorized infantry unit, so it's got defense of 3, and then modified by what the terrain effects chart says. Heavy woods is another 3, 6. So that's just 1 actual hit on that unit. If that had been in light woods, that would probably been 2. So that decreases there. Okay, now we have to see if that unit is actually disrupted. That's another victory point to NATO. They're now up to 8. They've completed 8 steps of damage. Now, is that unit disrupted? Well, we know that unit there is definitely fired. But is that unit disrupted? Okay. I'm a bit confused by the disruption rule, I must admit. It says each time a fire strike is made, the defending player compares the original hit total inflicted to the adjusted defense strength of each separate unit. Now, the adjusted defense strength of that unit is 6, 3 plus 3 for the heavy woods. If a unit's adjusted defense strength is less than or equal to the hit total, the unit is disrupted. Well, the hit total was 10, so it's less than. So effectively, every time a unit takes a hit, as in a loss, is going to be disrupted. Why don't you say if it's taken a step loss, it takes a disruption? I don't know why it goes through that. Place a disrupted marker on it is, I suppose, it's quite possible that some units in its hex will be disrupted while other strong units are not. So the just defense of each separate unit, Okay, I'll get it. Each separate. So there have been 2 units. Only 1 unit would have taken a step loss, but all of the units would have been disrupted, depending on the defense strength. Okay, got it. So disrupt unit automatically flips it. Okay, we'll mark it as disrupted. Well, boom. What's the effect of disruption? Right. Disrupted unit is immediately flipped. Just done that. Because it's on its use site, a disrupted unit cannot participate in any operation, even one planned for it. Now, we planned for this regiment here to do a hasty attack here. Well, I think that's just been curtailed, hasn't it? Yeah, there's going to be no hasty attack on this. It's been halted by the artillery. So you can see how the winning of the initiative by NATO has changed the concept of this turn completely. And just by 2 artillery units doing a fire strike. Okay. That, I believe, is a strike segment done. Let's bring up the sequence of play. So we've done strike. It's now the operations. Execute operations in any order desired. Okay, so NATO have got 2 command points, effectively. They got 1 command point on the HQ. As you can see on there, that's the number in red. And they've got 1 off-map command point. I better double check that. Yes, they've got 1 command point for off-map and 1 command point on map from the HQ, which means effectively they can launch 2 operations. So do we want to finish off these boys? I mean, they've got 3 steps. He's got 1. They've only got 4. As I just said right at the beginning of the video, can't see any reason why not, other than once they're done, they're finished. We now look, looking at the Warsaw Pact, we know that they can't be launching anything as a major operation. We've just disrupted this unit here. And this unit here is not within range for a hasty attack. Even if, I know personally they're going to do a hasty attack, but even if I was playing this opposed, I know there wouldn't be too much threat because it's not close enough. Because only the first the hasty attack they can move, but only the first 3 movement points can use road. So they're not getting, this unit's not moving. They're not going to get to here by road. I mean, this unit here moves to here for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They could get there, but they're not getting anywhere else. And this Abrams can reinforce this. We're not feeling too threatened there from the NATO perspective. So I think it might be time to do a little counterattack with NATO. Before I go through that operation, I just want to explain something as well. The artillery strike could have invoked a counter-battery fire from the Warsaw Pact missile unit there, but I didn't do that. And the reason why I didn't do that is the likelihood of being able to actually strike as a counter-battery for the Warsaw Pact is not very good. They're not very good. They have to actually roll. Let me just get the counter-battery fire up table. Okay, to acquire from the range from the spotting unit, which the nearest spotting unit would be this unit here, and the type of targets they were firing at, which would be self-propelled, at a range of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hexes, would have required an 8 or higher. Okay, and against the rocket, it would have been a 9 or higher. And if they don't make that roll, the artillery is still committed. It's like it's fired but missed. I was thinking that maybe the best use for the artillery would be firing on an acquired target, which they still got a chance to do some recon when it becomes the Warsaw Pact turn. Because if it's fired for the turn. So I thought about explaining that. I didn't go through the combat, the counter-battery procedure for that purpose, but I better have explained it before I actually go into why the NATO are doing what they're going to do now. Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit on the area I'm looking at doing some assaults or hasty attacks and such, which is this area here. So where's the Warsaw Pact activate by regiment? NATO activate by task force or forces. Now I want to do a task force can have a maximum of 4 steps. We look at this here. There's 2 steps of Bradleys and 2 steps of Abrams. So I want to assault into there. However, and that would use a command point. A task force can have a maximum of, say, 4 steps. So that would be one assault there. I'm also thinking of using this and this to assault this unit. Or I could have this, and this assault there using 2 command points as 2 separate task forces. I think that's what we're going to do. Okay, so we're going to activate 2 task forces to assault that excess. So there's a step procedure we've got to go through to do that. So let's bring this up here. That's the activation cycle. On the next page, we have the overrun, reserve, march. Where's the assault operation? Oh, here, AC attack, overrun, close. Assault, there we go. Assault operation cycle. So commitment step. Declare participating regiments, task forces, and objective hex, if any. NATO expends 1 command point per task force and place lead unit markers. So that's what we'll do now. Okay. Okay, so we place an objective marker on that is the objective. And we've got 2 task forces, so we'll make that one task force 1 and that is task force 2. With the lead unit, that part being of task force 2. Okay. If this is a hasty attack, only one of these would be activated. With assault, I can activate multiple task forces. And that expends a command point each. The off-board command point can be is being used plus the one from the HQ. Okay, so the use of command points. Each of those task forces requires a command point. One of them has been supplied by the HQ. Okay, so I've got a little track which keeps track of them on here. That goes down to 0 there. And I've got my off-map one, which goes to 0 there. Now, I don't have these little tracks for the Soviet one, Warsaw Pact, but HQs. I don't know if I'm going to put little markers on the actual HQs themselves. I mean, a march operation costs no command points, whereas that hasty attack we got going in, which probably not going to go in now, that did cost a command point. And the Warsaw Pact have a total of they have 2 HQs on the board. Let me just zoom back out. Now we're talking about command points. Each one of those you can see is the red number. It's got 1 command point each. And do they have an off-map one? That's a good question. Two million books. Okay, here we go. Do they have an off-map one in this scenario? They do. So they have a total of 3 command points they can utilize. So they could get 3 regiments doing either hasty attack or assault or whatever. In this particular engagement, they've just used 1. How am I meant to keep track of that? Because there isn't a track that shows that unless I'm missing something. So if you let me know in the comments, or am I just meant to place markers on them to show that they've used the command point? Anyway, that's distraction from what we're actually trying to do. So let's zoom back in. So the NATO's consumed the off-map command point for NATO. Yeah, NATO off-map command points are provided by an off-map course HQ. And are automatically within command range of all NATO units in that corps on or off map. So that's the lead unit. The other unit's got to be within 3 hexes of the lead unit. 1, 2, 3. That's the other unit that's participating. Now, if I was doing this on map, with actual counters, I would put those to a slant to show that those are the activated units for this operation. Can't seem to do that on here, so I just got to remember. Right, so we've got 2 task forces raised to take part in this operation. So the next step is the movement step. We want to move these units. I don't think we actually want to do much movement. I was tempted to move from here to here because in an assault, they've only got 3 movement points. And that's 3 movement points, but that would give this an infiltration fire. It's moving from a zone of control. Oh, no, it's not. That's heavy woods. There is no enemy zone of control. That's close terrain. Well, I better double check that. Okay, so close terrain, which is heavy woods and urban hexes, no zone of controls extended to them. So this unit can move to there and not suffer what's called infiltration fire, which is moving from a zone of control to a zone of control, because there isn't one. So that unit will move to there. Any other? I think that will actually conclude. Yeah, that will conclude the movement of part of the operation. So we have just done the movement step. Jamming, we're not really doing jamming here because we've got the EWSs, reaction. Inactive player can move 1 force eligible to react into the objective hex. They've got nothing eligible to react. Because for the Warsaw Pact to be able to react, they've got to be replaced, units are going to be placed in reserve. Nothing's been placed in reserve. So there's nothing that create, and to be reserved, they've got to be within 3 movement points anyway. So none of that applies. Defensive fire call step. So 1 inactive HQ with an eligible observer can make a fire call. Right, so we have got that 1 unit of artillery there that could, but I think we're going to save it for the Soviet turn. The other artillery being disrupted cannot. Yes, NATO defense, we don't have to worry about that. Defense fire step, right. So this is where this unit here gets to fire on at least something that's attacking it, because it's been attacked by multiple, right. So execute defensive fire against participating units. Okay. So we might as well fire. I think this is the unit we need to hit because that's our retreat path. I mean, yes, we can retreat there, but there's potential of taking losses as we do so. So that's the unit I think we need to target. Let's go through. So it's 5 procedures, so it's 3 steps multiplied by 3 because it's got an attack value of 3. That's the first number on the counter. So 3 by 3 is 9. Let's just check the charts and tables, see if there's any modifiers to that 9. Now, the other question is, can that unit fire? Because that is an attacking unit. I think it might be able to. Just double check that. Yes, I know I'm doing lots of double checking, but I don't really like making mistakes, as you all know. So let's just see. And that's why I double check. Yes, it can. Any defending unit that's adjacent to a unit that's attacking unit that's participating in the operation can be targeted. So they might as well combine that. So they've got 1 step from that unit and 3 steps from that. So 4 threes are actually 12. Then the modifiers. Okay. We're firing into close terrain. No, there's no actual modifier. It seems like anti-tank guns, armor. Oh, interesting. Armor would be halved. But infantry, which they are, even though motorized infantry, into a close terrain hex, there's no modifier. So it stays at 12, and then we've got that divided by 2. So they're at 6. 6. And now we roll on the combat results table. Okay. And they roll a 4. which is -1. Okay. When they go, I know this is an American company that's made this, but did they make these dice? So blue, which is obviously NATO, it just seems to roll really high, except when I do an example. I'll shut up now. Okay, so that's -1. So that's 6 attack value becomes, there's 5 hits on this Bradley here. It's got defense strength of 3, but it is in a heavy wood hex. Okay, heavy woods. Defensive fire versus no, defensive modifier versus offensive fire or strike. No, defense fire versus other fire. Right, now this is an interesting thing. Okay, so it's a heavy wood hex. If it was a defensive modifier versus offensive fire, it would get +3 to its defense. So it would be actually at 6. At 3 on the counter, +3 for them. But that is showing because it's in defensive formation. They're dug in, they're concealed and so forth. Because this is a moving unit, it's actually only got a +1. Defense modifier versus other fire, which is this is a defense fire that's coming in. It's only got +1 because it's moving, so it doesn't get as much protection from the terrain. So its defense is 3 + 1 is 4. The modified strike was 5. That's 1 hit on the Bradley, which actually eliminates it. Ooh. All right, let me do all that. Okay, so it's an effective defensive fire, even though the die roll said otherwise. Yes. Maybe that wasn't such a good way. Yeah, I'm learning the game. In retrospect, moving to there, allowing that to join in the fire, wasn't such a good idea. But yeah, we're learning as we go. Right. Okay, so these then can now fire. Well, I'm rushing ahead here. Hold on. Wish you wouldn't do that. Just bug me. We've just done the offensive fire concept. Do we want to bring any artillery into this situation? Well, considering all our artillery is fired, the answer is no. Okay. No helicopters. Offensive fire step. So now we fire everything we can at that hex. Okay. So we're adding these 3 units into the fire here. All right. So we have Abrams, which is got an attack strength of 9 × 2 is 18. The 2 Bradleys in the same hex, 4 × 2 is 8. So 18 + 8 is 26. And then we've got another 2 steps here of 8. It's 34. Is that correct? 26 + 8, 34. That is then halved to 14. 34 to no 17. At 17 hits. Ouch. And then we've got the die roll with a 3. Okay, so I talked it up and it now decides, oh yeah, I can roll low too. I can roll low too. So we're at 17. I wish they put these charts in alphabetical order. I really do. I know I'm whinging about it, but there we go. With a 3, it's -1. So that 17 becomes 16 hits on that hex. Okay. Now it can absorb the first 3 as a retreat. Sorry, I won't say first 3. The defense strength of that hex is 3, and the modifier for light woods +2, that's 5. So they will absorb 5 of those hits, and they can now retreat there, which was I was trying to block. Okay. That's the objective hex there. So it's 5 has been absorbed from the 16. That still leaves 11. 11 and each one. Now, that's a good point. Now, the retreat is not done yet. It's still worked out at that point. They're going to retreat. they're going to take another 2. First one will take from 11 to, 11. Take away 5 is 6. So, and then again, 6 down to 1. They took 2 step losses there. With the retreat automatically flips them over. NATO can then advance if they so wish. Actually, that doesn't automatically flip them over. It's only if NATO actually advance into there, which they will do. That's right. You don't have to advance everything, just the infantry will move into there. Okay, which then does flip that unit over to show it can't. It's classed as engaged. Okay, and that completes. Let's just double check that. All right, so offensive fire step we did. Retreat step with retreat elected, retreat defending units. So it did absorb at least 1 hit. Okay, and execute any retreat fired. Okay, there was no retreat fire triggered. Advanced step we've just done, and then completion step we then flip everything over that was involved in that operation, which will be the Abrams there, that unit there, and that unit there. Okay, so they inflicted 2 losses on this regiment, but suffered 1 themselves. That's not a good exchange rate, really, for NATO, but they do get 1. They're at 10 VP now. Okay. Let's tidy that up, remove the lead unit markers because they're now done. And the objective marker, boom. Yeah. Not advancing that unit from there to from there to there and then getting wiped out, they would have potentially taken retreat losses. So lesson learned, that wasn't the ideal attack. Yeah. So that's the assault gone through. Any other thing we want to do with NATO? Let's just zoom out a little bit. Do we want to move the artillery? Now, these would be march ops. I think we might want to move that infantry back to there, staying with it, keeping it out of context of the operations. The HQ is fine where it is. The artillery, hold on there, let's just clear them up there. Yeah, we can move this. We just determined that artillery wasn't close enough, but do we want to move it any closer? This artillery I'm talking about here. I don't think so. It could be in better terrain. I'll tell you what, we'll move that one there and that one there. They're allowed to move. So then they get flipped. They're classed as march operations, which do not accumulate or require any fatigue points. Fatigue points? Get my games mixed up. Do not require any command points. Is this a good place for this unit still? I think so. I can't see any reason why not. And there's this one over here. Yeah, 2 1-step units. And we got Abrams there to reinforce either. So I don't think we need to commit anything there. We've used all our command points, so we can't actually form a task force. But that will have to wait through till the Soviet turn. So that's NATO done. So we go back to the top here. Okay, and we go now to the Warsaw Pact. It did hurt not winning the initiative for the Warsaw Pact there, didn't it? They did have a hasty attack planned for here. They activate it with just 4 steps. We know we've got no NATO artillery that can interfere. Now, to do a hasty attack, you've got 6 movement points, so they could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they could still bring in 4 steps there. They do know they've seen two Abrams being revealed here. They know that NATO have got 4, and there's only 2 counters on the map. So they know that is 2 Abrams there, which can reinforce 1, 2, 3. But can it? They've not got any command points left. They've used a command point here, and they're off board. So can this unit come in as a reserve? Does that require a command point? I did say this is a learning game, didn't I? I did say that. I said I'm going to make him bumbling buffoon maneuvers. Okay. 2 reasons why this unit here cannot react into there. Number 1, there's no command points left. To be able to react, there must be a command point to do so. NATO have used the HQ command point, and they've used the off-board command point, so they have none. The Warsaw Pact player would know that there's no way that they've got command points to react. Okay. The other reason is he's out of range anyway. Reaction can't use road movement rate. It can use the roads as only 1 movement point to move through this woods, but it couldn't use it as half. So it couldn't go 1, 1.5, 2.5. It's still 1, 2, 3. It can't get there anyway. So from the Warsaw Pact perspective, the hasty attack here, which should have been used in these units, on these units, can go ahead. Should it? Well, they've spent the command point to do it. We know NATO have got no artillery assets available. We know the Abrams is out of command. So let's do that. And we'll do that first. Woo! Okay, so let's do this hasty attack. Now, let's go through. We have a hasty attack commitment step. Right, so we're declaring that's the regiment, and we've got to declare a lead unit. So that's the regiment that's going to be the lead unit. Can we mark? Mark as lead unit and mark as target. There we go. Then, if any, declare over. We're not doing over and a close attacks. Those are optional rules. Warsaw Pact's already expended its command point in the planning phase. Movement step. So move Warsaw Pact regiment 6 movement points, first half movement points by road movement, which NATO can't do. This is apparently something that the Warsaw Pact were trained to do. So 6 movement points. The lead unit marker stays where it is. So we're going to go. That's half movement point on road. So it's 1, 2, 3. Then 4, 5, 6. This unit here can't move because it was disrupted, in which means it's been flipped. So it's just sitting, doing nothing. Okay, then we go into jamming. No, don't have to worry about reaction. We've just determined that they can't react because they don't have a command point and it's out of range. So no reaction. Error. Defensive fire call step. There is no defensive fire. All artillery being fired. Offensive fire call step. Now we still have the rockets unused. So do we actually? Because I've done it again, haven't I? All right, let's just go back onto the activation cycle. All right. Deploy its reconnaissance step. I've been jumping ahead. I was getting so carried away. Pause for a moment. Okay. Any of you that are screaming at the screen, you forgot to do. Yes, I forgot to do. Okay. There's no redeployment. Reconnaissance. Wurzburg do have reconnaissance assets, so they could make reconnaissance attempts. And then could have done a strike with some artillery. We're going to use this artillery in this combat anyway. Is there anything worth doing recon for other than that? The answer is no. They could have used recon to protect this artillery, but I want it to be brought. It's the only artillery that got into the attack hex here. So yes, I've rushed some steps, but that's because in my mind, I wasn't going to use those assets. But I should have gone through the sequence because I meant to be showing you guys how to play this game and me. So the actual sequence should have been activate one division. They've only got one division. We're not playing hidden mode. Reconnaissance segment. We should have done reconnaissance attempts. I didn't see the need because I wasn't going to fire the artillery at anything else other than that hex. Strike segment, there isn't one. Operations, and that's what we're in at the present moment. So I do apologize if I jumped the gun a little bit. And then going back on the hasty attack, we've just done the movement. We are now doing, there is no defensive fire because the NATO has fired all its guns. We are then into the offensive fire. One active HQ can make a fire call, which we're doing to one friendly artillery unit. So we're making a fire call from one of these HQs here to the rocket launcher there, which got a range of 13. I better actually just double check the range there. Blimey. Just. I think the word is just. So it's in range. So that is going to be joining in. So offensive fire call step to make a fire call to one friendly artillery unit. Offensive fire, execute offensive fire against objective hex. Okay, so let's have a look at that. Okay. I might have mentioned that I am a bumbling buffoon with these rules still learning. That's the whole point of me doing these videos in the first place. Rocket artillery, okay, cannot provide fire support to a friendly offensive or defensive fire combat because they are not strikes. They can only do strikes. So I can't bring rocket artillery into this attack. Right. So going back on those steps, and I say, if you've been watching this, no, I do correct my mistakes, hopefully eventually. So bringing back that sequence of play. I'm not going to bring the unit back because he's still going to come in here. Okay. Going back on these steps here. Why I didn't do a recon. Make reconnaissance attempts. Place acquisition markers. All right. So the Warsaw Pact have got 2 reconnaissance points, 1 from each HQ. Actually, that's got 2 on it. So that's we've got 3 reconnaissance points. So let's see if we can recon any of this artillery then. So we want to recon that hex, probably that hex, and last case scenario, that hex there. So let's try that hex there first of all. Okay, so yeah, I know I'm backtracking. So I'm reading bits of these rules as we're playing. I've read the rules through twice now, and yes, it's a lot to absorb. But we'll get there. That's the whole point. We'll get there. Right. Okay. So to recon that hex, you take the nearest Soviet unit, which is that one there, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hexes away. That is heavy woods. At 7 hexes, requires a 9. That's pretty difficult. 8. Make sure there's no modifiers to that. No, that's a failure. Let's recon this hex anyway. All right, so that's in city, but that's within 2 to 3 hexes. No, where that unit's currently not there, remember? Its nearest unit it was there, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hexes into city. needs a 9 as well. 6 X's. Oh, blimey. Quite a 10. That's not a city, it's a town. A 9. No. I will try for the other artillery. Actually, no. Let's try for these bloody tanks. That's a 3. They're in light wood. 2 to 3 hexes away requires a 4. So actual no recon assets came in. Okay. Going back on the sequence, we know that the artillery and the rockets can't help in the attack. So can they fire on anything else? The answer on an acquired target, observed target. So could they fire? Can't fire here because that's not adjacent, but these guys are. Let me just double check that. The answer is yes. So we're going to bring in a fire strike with the rocket artillery from there. So it's 1 step of 8. There's no other modifiers other than half. So it's an attack strength of 4. Okay, into that hex there. Soviets not rolling very well again. I keep saying Soviets. Warsaw Pact, because they're actually East Germans. Modify the combat results table. Okay, so they rolled a 2, which subtracts 2. So that attack was 4, becomes 2. Yeah. 2, like that, no effect. Okay. So, yeah. Did it in the wrong sequence. Was going to bring it into... I know, I do apologize. Place fired marker. Right, okay. No effect. Right, going back on this attack. Got the artillery. I thought I'd bring this artillery in. Yeah, the other artillery could have been brought in if it wasn't disrupted, but rocket artillery can't. So you couldn't be using a strike. Anyway, we're getting there. Honestly, bear with me. Hasty step. Right, okay. So we're now doing the defensive fire step from the Bradleys there. Okay, so they've got a strength of 4. Times by 1 is 4. Now, that's it. 4. It's half to 2. We roll a 6 on the combat results table. That's no modifier, so it's 2. So it's no effect because they've got a defense of 3. Let's just zoom a little bit in on there. Yeah, they've got a defense of 3 plus the woods, which is 1, so it's 4. So no effect. Okay, that's defensive fire. Next up, we have offensive fire. We know we can't make a fire call, so it's a straight unit. So he is worth 3. Multiplied by 4 is 12. Then halved. The usual half of it took me. There's no other terrain effects. Taking into a town. Right. It's not a close terrain. Fire into hex. No. Fire out of no. Okay, so it's just that 3 multiplied by 4 is 12. Halved, 6. Everything is halved, remember. 6 plus, can't see that. It's a 5. That is no modifier, so it's a straight 6 on that Bradley. Okay, now it's defending a town hex, which adds 4 to its defense value. So 4 plus 3 is 7. No losses. Wow. To make sure I'm not making something wrong with the math. 4 times 3 is 12. Half 12 is 6. 5 makes no change, so it stays 6. The Bradley's got a defense of 3, modified by the town hex, which is plus 4, is 7. No losses. The attack is blunted. Interesting. Okay, let's zoom out a little bit there. That ends the offensive operation. So let's flip him over. Okay, move the lead. So let's eliminate that. Right, over to the rest of the Warsaw Pact units. These are doing a march. So let's move them. We could allocate a lead unit, but we're not going to bother. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5. Can't go adjacent, so we're going to just move him to there and bring his compatriot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to there. Okay, so it's hoping they will get the initiative next time. All right. This unit can't move. Okay, these guys are falling back. They're fed up of being drubbed. They've got a march operation. So 1, 2. Well, let's keep them together. Let's do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2. Yeah. We've only got that whole regiment started with 9 steps, is now down to 2. Very quickly. Very, very quickly. Losses are accumulated. Okay. The armor. I think Schweinfurt is going to not be the focus of our attention for the Warsaw Pact. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to split these up. There we go. 6. Split those. Okay. We're focusing on this side to break through. So that means that they've got to redeploy. So it depends if, or we should have got rid of that objective, if the who gets the initiative next time, doesn't it? Okay. HQs, 20 hex range. I think he's fine back there. The artillery can't move because it's disrupted. I think that's pretty much taken out of the equation. The rocket's only got 13 hex range. We could move those. So we will. 1, 2, 3. I think that will be fine. Yeah, it's in range of all the assets we want to attack. So that is the Warsaw Pact done. Activation cycle summary. We've just done operations segment. Finish for the Warsaw Pact. So we now go back to here. Reserve phase, there's no reserve units. No units left to move. Engineering phase, there is none. Right, and then reorganization. Remove disruption marker. So we press the reorg on here, and that flips all the units, removes everything that needs to be removed, ready for the next turn. We don't have EW. I don't think we have to check for shatter. There's no additional shatter to be checked for. That adjusts all those, and we move the game turn marker. So let's just do that. All right, we're just about to go into game turn 4. Current victory points are standing at NATO with 10, Warsaw Pact with 3. But we've just found that currently this is a bit of a weak setup here for NATO. mainly my cock up here, but who wins the initiative on turn 4? Let's bring this up back to me. Ah. Ooh, mistakes. Jumping the gun. Also tactical mistakes of positioning on some of those units. But so I've gone through the second reading of the rules, which definitely helped after playing, a little bit of the game. Also, playing it with you guys on here definitely helps familiarize yourself. That moving of the NATO unit forward to try and cut off the retreat path was a mistake, but I'm going to make mistakes, and hopefully this will help you guys play the game better as well. Um, Key thing is don't jump the sequence of play. Go through it methodically, especially even when you got in your own head, I'm not going to do that. For you guys, I should have gone through it methodically, and then also double check the rocket artillery. Yeah, they can't. They can only do strikes. They can't because they're not accurate enough. Apparently, that's the reason behind. When you've got your own troops involved in an attack, then you don't want to fire and hit your own guys. So, but otherwise, I hope that was helpful. I hope you guys still want to enjoy enjoying what I'm doing here. Yes, I'm making mistakes in the game, but it's mistakes that I think anybody who's learning a game like this would make, which will then hopefully mean that you won't make those same mistakes or less of them. That's the point. Um, After I've completed this game, I do intend to complete this game. I will probably replay it using the additional assets such as air and helicopters and such forth. I've also got a game that I'm playing opposed of this scenario with the same restrictions are currently here, i.e. no air or helicopter assets, which is I'm playing NATO in that, which is playing out completely differently. So I like that there's plenty of replay value in this game. If you got this far and you liked what you saw, please press the like button. I'm not going to ask for it before the video starts. If you got this far and you liked it, please just pay the rent, which is the like button. It helps the channel. If you've not subscribed to the channel and you've again enjoyed what you've seen and you've seen other things that line you up, please subscribe. Again, it helps the channel. Spreads the word out there. And finally, any comments, much appreciated. Even comments like, you made a mistake there. I know I made plenty. But that's the whole point, isn't it? Until next time, guys, have fun, play games, and bye, internet.